There are a couple of other things that are essential for innovation and invention that are not as fun. One of them is you have to have a willingness to fail. You have to have a willingness to be misunderstood for long periods of time. If you do something in a new way, and I don't care what it is, people are initially going to misunderstand it relative to the traditional way. And there'll be well-meaning critics who, genuinely want the best outcome, but they're worried about this new way. And there'll also be, of course, self-interested critics who have a vested interest in the traditional, they have some profit stream tied to the traditional way. But doing things, if you never want to be criticized, for goodness sake, don't do anything new. So it's okay though, if you have a willingness to be misunderstood for long periods of time, if you have a willingness to fail, then what you can do is you can ramp up your rate of experimentation. So successful invention is inventions that customers care about. It's actually relatively easy to invent new things that customers don't care about. But successful invention, if you want to do a lot of that, you basically have to increase your rate of experimentation. And that you can think of as a process. How do you go about organizing your systems, your people, all of your assets, your own daily life and how you spend time? How do you organize those things to increase your rate of experimentation? Because not all of your experiments are going to work.
It's going to be a tough one for me because it's Jeff Bezos, so you can't disagree. I just have a different point of view. Okay, so my thing is this. I do care what other people think. I have a need to please. Well, you can call it a disease to please. It matters. Success means a lot to me because it's not just my success, it's other people's success too. So taking a risk and being okay if you fail, or I like to measure or calculate, be very calculative, if that's a word, calculative, or calculated in my approach and my process. Now I understand the process of success, failure is a part of that process, but I don't want to hurt other people in the process. I want other people to be happy too, and I do care what people think about me. Yeah, you can come back to me later on that one.
All right, true. Yeah, so I think
come back to me.
I think what Jeff was saying is finding a way to continue to experiment and try new things and test new things is ultimately what's going to give you the edge of how to grow and innovate in whatever it is that you're doing, and ultimately find the shift that needs to happen in order to innovate and become a breakthrough entrepreneur. Obviously, he talked in the beginning of it how as you experiment and start to see a little bit of success with your experimentations, you're going to draw some haters, and people are going to start criticizing you and helping you and start, because ultimately their profit is what you are essentially trying to disrupt.
But what comes to the point where you don't be sensitive to the feedback? Because if you're going down the wrong path and it's not working out, then what about the feedback? Because other people can be hurt in the process of you trying stuff out that's not working out. There shouldn't be a cutoff point? Because
in order to make the light bulb, it took Edison how many tries?
Yeah, but he wasn't hurting anybody, and we didn't have any light, so nobody could see anything anyways.
But but at the end of the day, like if you're not trying, like when I got started in doing online businesses and things like that, it started out with a YouTube channel. I came to the realization like, I don't know if this is going to be the thing that is for me, so I had to pivot, try something else. Went and did Amazon. Did Amazon FBA, retailer arbitrage, that type of thing.
But did anybody lose money or get hurt behind you trying out those different experiments?
It was time and effort and energy, and my wife's time and effort and energy.
Okay.
I'm
very sensitive. I need things to work out.
At the end of the day, if you want to grow and expand and move into other things,
calculate the risk.
Okay, that's
Calculated
fine.
risk.
When I paid $5,000 for that 4,000 units worth of products to launch that brand, it was a calculated risk.
And he's got resilience. He can bounce back like that.
The question that you have to ask yourself is like, what is the cost if I fail? But what is the profit if I succeed?
But then it's a thin line, and this is Mr. Bezos here because you know who he is. But isn't there a thin line where you could be stubborn and pig-headed about things, where you should go ahead and make a shift, or do you just stay with it and stay with it and stay with it, and hopefully it works out? But what if it doesn't? There should be some type of governor or some type of feedback mechanism where you're like, okay, that's enough. I don't want to cause more hurt or damage because I'm doing too much. Me, I'm just sensitive to that, so I'm working on that. I can't be like Jeff Bezos in that situation.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Good little show there. That was fun. That was good. That was
He was
good.
enjoying. He had his popcorn too.
I did need popcorn. That was good.
I'm asking questions. This was a tough one for me.
I think if you have ideas as an entrepreneur, but then don't chase them down, you end up regretting that you never chased them down. And you get to the end of your life and you look back and say, man, you know what? I could have done so much more, but I was afraid. You also end up hating your business. If you end up playing your business so safe and take no risk and do no failures because you're afraid, then you end up just repeating the same thing that you know works, and you end up hating your business because you just bought yourself a job. And so you don't have to go off and take giant risks. I think that's a lot of, there's a misconception about entrepreneurs that you have to be this giant risk taker. You don't have to. You just have to get started. And I think what a lot of entrepreneurs do so well is they take small risks and just get the momentum going. The easiest way to do that is just go from idea to action. This is something that I try to train people, but also myself. Just idea to action. You get an idea, find the smallest way to just go off and do it. I mean, we're doing it right here. We had a couple hours to spare before I have to go to the speaker thing. And like, hey, you guys want to make some content? I got no microphone, no setup,
lighting.
No lighting,
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Yeah, we're here, we're facing the window, we tied the phone to a lamp stand, and we're filming content, And it's just that idea. I didn't come here thinking I'm gonna go make content. I know we're gonna have these extra hours. If I thought about it, I could have been more prepared. We could have had, microphone and set up and had my videos ready to go. But instead, you know what? Idea, go do something about it. And to lower the barrier for what a failure looks like allows you to go off and take more potential risks. And it's just by taking an idea and then go off and doing something. A lot of the greatest things that have come in my life have just been starting off from one little tiny experiment. The top 10 rules series on my channel was because my friend Mark Drager insulted Kanye West, and I wanted to make a Kanye West defense video and made a top 10 rules of his life that I shared, right? And that was only supposed to be a one-off thing. Nobody was hurt in the process, maybe Mark, but he ended up liking it. And it ended up becoming this big thing that everybody's like, hey, do Jay-Z and do Jeff Bezos and do Dame Dash and do somebody else. And I like that. I can do more of that. And by the same token, I've done other things that I have no inspiration to go off and do again. When I woke up at 3 a.m. and had this rap in my head to do a Chinese song, and I just had to get it out of my system, and so I filmed this song and I rapped on it.
You guys gotta go check it out. It's on videos. He's still out there. It's on the channel.
It's out there.
It's good too. It's good.
Mang Chung, look up Mang Chung remix, a rap cover or something, you'll find it.
It's good.
I wake up every day and I'm hustling, I'm dreaming. Gotta make sure that my life has meaning. Turning my pain into purpose. Trying to help others not feel so worthless.
And people are like, when's the next one? Like, well, I don't know. I don't feel inspired to go off and do another one. But I'm willing to put that one out there. We did a Shania Twain dance challenge because Alex, friend of the channel, had no idea who I was playing this song. Shania Twain, No One Needs to Know Right Now. I was playing it in the office, and he didn't know what this song was. Never heard of it before. Like, you don't know this song? Are you kidding me? How do you not know this song? So I went to my Instagram and said, can you believe that Alex doesn't know what this song is? And then all my Instagram, I was like, I've never heard that song either. Like, are you kidding me? You don't know Shania Twain, No One Needs to Know Right Now? And so the rest of my day became about making a Shania Twain, No One Needs to Know Right Now dance challenge. And I messaged everybody that I could remember and knew and who had been interacting with on Instagram. It wasn't Alex, no, because I made him do one at the hospital. Alex is at the hospital seeing his mom. It wasn't very serious, but he's at the hospital with his mom. And it's like, Alex, I need you to dance to No One Needs to Know Right Now, Shania Twain. He's like, but I'm at the hospital. Alex, I need you to dance to this song. What are we doing here? So he grabbed somebody outside and danced with her to the song. And I got all these people who were shy and never danced before or afraid to make a video. And they danced to the song, and we compiled it. It's somewhere also on the channel. And we played the Shania Twain song, and then you see all these people dancing to it. And people wrote back in after, that was so amazing. I can't believe I did that. I've never filmed anything on camera. Now I'm dancing, you know, and I'm on a YouTube video. When's the next one? There's no next one. I don't want to be a dance challenge video. That's not, I got it out of my system and it's gone. And so some of these great ideas that you have will turn into something amazing. And some of them, that's it. You had it once and then you know what it tastes like and you don't want to do it anymore, and it's totally cool, but you don't know until you actually go off and try it. You know, you don't know what sushi tastes like until you put it in your mouth and you take a bite and you try it. And that's with all these ideas as well. And as long as they just sit there as ideas, you will grow more frustrated and more angry and more disappointed in yourself that you never took your shot. Where if you just find the smallest possible way to take some kind of immediate momentum on that idea, just to get a taste to see if it's the thing, and if yes, and it lights up your heart, then go off and do some more. And if no, cool. Go on and do something else. Try.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
How do we get young people re-engaged with government service?
Well, I think one thing, and I look at this at Amazon too, so I don't think it's just government service. I think a lot of these government organizations are large organizations. And large organizations have a set of problems, and I worry about this at Amazon. I want us to have the scope and capabilities of a large organization, but the spirit and heart of a small startup company. And I think that, so large organizations, one of the things that happens is that the rate of the decision-making velocity goes down. And it gets hard for large organizations to make decisions quickly. It's trivial for a 50-person startup. They make decisions like this. But a 500,000 person company like Amazon or a giant government agency, there's a lot of levels of review and different things, and it can really slow. And by the way, young people don't want to work at a company with a slow decision-making process. It's just not as fun as working at a startup company or somewhere else. So I think you can do that, and even in a large organization, I think if the leadership, this is all about leadership, if the leadership focuses on increasing the decision-making velocity of the organization, everybody will be happier. It's more fun. Everybody will be happier at work. And you'll get younger people because that's what they want. You can also do, every single person who works in a large company, you get to decide, are you going to help increase the decision-making velocity? Are you going to bring energy to the room? We all know, we all have those people, we work with them. As soon as they walk in the room, the whole room, the energy level goes up. Somehow they bring energy to that conference room. And we also all work with people who are the opposite. Like the second they walk in the room, the whole room deflates. And you don't want to be that second guy. You want to be that first guy. And we all get to choose that. We all get to decide that. So anyway, I think you can do it in big organizations. And I think one of the things that makes big organizations less attractive to young people is just sometimes we're slow. And you can fight that and you can fix it.
If you looked at what you've brought and the legacy of innovation, how would you describe that?
Well, I think what I would hope Amazon's legacy would be is Earth's most customer-centric company. What we have always wanted to do is raise the standard for what it means to be customer-centric to such a degree that other organizations, whether they be other companies or whether they be hospitals or government agencies, whatever the organization is, they should look at Amazon as a role model and say, how can we be as customer-centric as Amazon?
Even competitors, I imagine, right?
Hopefully competitors as well. But if we could make, if that could be our legacy, that we kind of raise the general idea of what it means to be customer-centric, that would be a huge accomplishment. It would be accomplishing a mission that's much bigger than ourselves. If you look over long periods of time, look over hundreds of years, and look at the average sort of life cycle of a new technology, what you find is that it's getting compressed and compressed and compressed. So the rate of change is getting faster and faster. Every decade that goes by, there are sort of more important discoveries per unit time than there were in the previous decade. And a lot of these discoveries tend to have two uses. I mean, technologies tend to be agnostic with respect to whether they can be used for good or used for evil. And I think that over the next 50 years, we are going to face a lot of very tough decisions as a society in how we make sure that we are harnessing those technologies for good purposes. I think liberty, giving people the freedom to, as long as they're not hurting somebody else, do what they want, is super important. I think it's the core essence of the American dream. And I think at times we as a people get confused about it. I mean, I think one of the things that you see come up in various places, and people talk about it under different labels. Sometimes they talk about it as a lack of personal responsibility and other kinds of labels. But what it really is I think people should carefully reread the first part of the Declaration of Independence, because I think sometimes we as a society start to get confused and think that we have a right to happiness. But if you read the Declaration of Independence, it talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Nobody has a right to happiness. You should have a right to pursue it, and I think the core of that is liberty.
What do you see as the biggest challenges or risk in operating in the space domain?
Well, let's start with the fundamental principle. You never want a fair fight. That's for a boxing ring. Outside of a boxing ring, a fair fight is just bad strategy. And it means you didn't prepare properly. And as you pointed out, this nation has enjoyed incredible space dominance for so long. And it's changing because some of our potential adversaries are getting very sophisticated. And so for me, or if I were in your shoes, the way I would think about this is, in this new era, how are we going to maintain space dominance? What does it really mean? And you're going to need some fundamental capabilities. You have to be able to go to space more frequently with less lead time.
You mentioned that you wanted innovation to inspire this next generation. Why is it important to you? Why is it so important to you personally to make that happen?
Well, I think, I was a very lucky kid. I was inspired by invention and self-reliance from a number of different people, and from, even watching the Apollo program as a little boy. And I think when little kids get inspired, you never know what might happen. It's a big deal. And everything about our society gets better over time. I really do believe that. I'm an optimist. The myth of the good old days is usually just that, a myth. We have better medicine than we've ever had before. everything, you know, all of that is invention. It's people figuring out antibiotics. It's people figuring out new kinds of biomedicines, biotechnology. It's things that have been figured out with the kind of communication that we have, the freedom of speech we have now with the internet. There's so many things that are getting better, and a lot of that is powered by invention. If you are a lottery winner, as I am, then one of the things that you get a chance to do at some point in your life is to be a philanthropist. And I didn't grow up hoping, boy, maybe I'll be a philanthropist one day. That wasn't ever on my list of, archaeologist, astronaut, those things I wanted to be. Physicist, I never. I think in large part because I never expected to have the means to be a philanthropist. But I think that if you win a lottery of this kind of size, that one of the things that over time you have an obligation to do is to think about the ways that wealth can be used in a highly leveraged way. I also think, by the way, it's really easy to give away money in highly unleveraged ways where it's just a waste of money. And I suspect that it takes as much sort of time, energy, focus, and hard work to effectively give away money as it does to get it in the first place. Amazon, one of the things we try to do is have multiple paths to yes. And so here's a little thought experiment for you. If you are a junior executive at Amazon, and if Amazon did this in the typical kind of corporate hierarchy way, you had an idea. You need to get your boss to greenlight that idea, and then your boss's boss needs to greenlight that idea, and then your boss's boss's boss needs to greenlight that idea. There are probably 5 levels or more before that idea gets the go-ahead. Assume instead that you're an entrepreneur with a startup company idea and you need venture capital. You go to Sand Hill Road and you go to the first venture capitalist and they tell you no. And you go to the second one and they tell you no. Maybe your 20th one tells you yes. You got 19 no's and 1 yes, and you're still good to go. So that venture capital model there's multiple paths to yes. There were 20 people who could give you a yes, and it didn't matter how many gave you a no. So if you want innovative thinking, you have to think about how can we you want a large number of high judgment people empowered to greenlight things. You want multiple paths to yes. You want a system where, as a junior Air Force officer with a good idea, the first 5 people tell me no, and somehow I can still go pursue that idea. So you got to figure out, that's an organizational challenge that big organizations have to figure out a way to do. And by the way, I get, this happens all the time. I'll say, I don't think that's a good idea, but somebody else will greenlight it. And I'm fine with that, because usually the cost of the experiments is pretty small. Things only get expensive when they work, right? Once something works, you're like, whoa, we need to double down on that. And then the spending can get heavy, and then those become big consequential decisions, and that's where the hierarchy and using the judgment of the most senior people, to me, this really helps. The most influential people in my life were my grandparents. And my mother had me when she was 17 years old. She raised me with my grandparents' help. And she was still in high school when she had me. That was not cool in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1964. But she did an incredible job. But I was lucky because I had not just her, but she married my father when I was about 4 years old. He has been a huge influence in my life. But my grandmother and grandfather were like second set of parents for me. And you learn different things from them because they're at a different stage of life and they know different things. They're calm about certain things. It was a huge gift to me. My grandfather had a ranch in Texas, and I spent all my summers there from like age 4 to 16, and he was the most self-reliant person. He did all of his own veterinary work, all the things, and to observe him solve problems and figure out how to do things with no tools and no resources and very small amounts of money. It was a huge education from an early age. So we were very lucky. One of the things that I know people who have, they don't have great family situations, and sometimes they break that cycle, and they are the ones who pull out of it. Those people are the ones I reserve my highest admiration for.
Well, two pizza teams is something that we've been preaching at Amazon almost from the very beginning, and it's a simple idea, which is no team should be so large that it cannot be fed with just two pizzas. And so obviously to do great things you need big teams, but you need to subdivide them. And the reason that it's so helpful is because there's a natural, we humans grew up around campfires and telling each other stories, and you're sitting at tables tonight that have about 10 people at each table. 10 people, maybe 12 people, is the perfect size to have a natural human coordination without a lot of structure. And if you want to have a big group of 100 people or 500 people organized, you have to have a lot of structure to make that work. And so if you can arrange to do big things with a multitude of small teams, and that takes a lot of effort to organize that way, but if you can figure that out, the communication on those small teams will be very natural and easy.
As the owner of the Post, I know that at times the Post is going to write stories that are going to make very powerful people very unhappy. And
are you upset if they are writing critical stories about Amazon, which they do?
No, I'm not upset at all. When I first bought the Post in 2013, never. And I'd never. I would be humiliated to interfere. I would be so embarrassed. I would turn bright red, and it has nothing to do with. I don't even get so far. I just don't want to. For me, it would feel icky. It would feel gross. It would be one of those things when I'm 80 years old. I would be so unhappy with myself if I interfered. Why would I? I want that paper to be independent.
Failure and invention are inseparable twins. Everybody wants to be inventive. If you go talk to corporate America or any institution, actually, government agencies and so on, innovation is something to be proud of. People like invention. But the problem is they don't like failure. And you cannot have invention without failure. If you already know it's going to work, it's not an experiment. And only through experimentation can you get real invention. The most important inventions come from trial and error with lots of failure. And the failure is critical, and it's also embarrassing. And so that's why people, when we're kids, we always are doing trial and error, and we're never embarrassed. You watch a little toddler, and they will try for hours to put a square peg in a round hole, and it never works. But it doesn't keep them from trying. And they try things like that, and that's how they learn. And we all have that when we're little, and then as we get older, somehow it's not as cool as you get older to fail and to fall down. It looks clumsy. And so we get in our grooves, we have a set of expertise and skills, it's kind of a comfort zone, and you have to constantly push yourself to say, no, I don't care about failure. In fact, I say at Amazon, we have to grow the size of our failures as the size of our company grows. We have to make bigger and bigger failures, because otherwise none of our failures will be needle movers. And so I would see it as a very bad sign over the long run if Amazon wasn't making larger and larger failures. And if you do that all along the way, that is going to protect you from ever having to make that big, kind of Hail Mary bet that you sometimes see companies make right before they fail and go out of existence.
My grandparents would take me every summer, starting at age 4, every summer, kind of to give her a break, really, for the whole summer. So I'd be with my grandparents and on their ranch in Cotulla, Texas, which is halfway between San Antonio and Laredo. We lived in Houston, and so we would make the 5-hour drive out to Cotulla. They'd drop me off, spend a couple of days there, then they'd go back to Houston. I'd spend the summer. And I went every day to the ranch with my grandfather to help. Now, a 4-year-old boy on a ranch in South Texas is not a lot of help. But I didn't know that. I thought I was helping, and then by the time I was 16, I actually was helping. So I have, I can suture up a prolapsed cow. I can fix windmills. My grandfather was so resourceful, and that he made his own veterinary needles. He would take a little piece of wire and pound it flat with like a oxyacetylene torch, and then drill a little hole through it. And then we did all of our own veterinary work. Some of the cattle even survived. And so we had great fun out there. We built barns and welded things, and he bought a D6 Caterpillar bulldozer used. It was like 1955 model year for $5,000. It was completely broken. The gears were stripped. And then we spent, a whole summer repairing that. And the first thing we had to do to repair it was build a crane to take the gears out of the transmission. And so, what I learned from watching him was just how resourceful he was. He didn't ever call a repairman. He figured it out.
You don't choose your passions choose you. And I would always advise young people, actually anyone, to get in touch with what you're really passionate about. And it's a gift to have a passion. Some people are lucky they have more than one passion. They have 2 or 3, and that gives you energy. You can't force a passion on yourself. It just doesn't work. You can try, but it's unlikely to succeed.
This work-life harmony thing is what I try to teach young employees, actually, and senior executives at Amazon too, but especially the people come in. We're asked about work-life balance all the time. And my view is that's a debilitating phrase, because it implies there's a strict trade-off. And the reality is, if I'm happy at home, I come into the office with tremendous energy. And if I'm happy at work, I come home with tremendous energy. And so it actually is a circle. It's not a balance. And I think that is worth everybody paying attention to. You never want to be that guy. And we all have a coworker who is that person who, as soon as they come into the meeting, they drain all of the energy out of the room. You can just feel the energy level go, whoosh. You don't want to be that guy. So you want to come into the office and give everybody a kick in their step.
Your stock at one point, I think, went to $100, but then it went down to $6 or something like that.
At the peak of the internet bubble, our stock peaked somewhere around $113.
Thanks.
And then after the internet bubble, busted open, our stock went down to $6. It went from 113 to 6 in less than a year. So my annual shareholder that year starts with a one-word sentence, and that one-word sentence is the word ouch.
So most of those internet companies of the dot-com era are out of business.
Yeah.
You survived. What was it that made you to survive, and virtually the rest of them are gone?
That whole period is very interesting, because the stock is not the company, and the company is not the stock. And so as I watched the stock fall from 113 to 6, I was also watching all of our internal business metrics: number of customers, profit per unit, everything you can imagine, defects, etc. Every single thing about the business was getting better and fast. And so as the stock price was going the wrong way, everything inside the company was going the right way. And we didn't need to go back to the capital markets. We didn't need more money. The only reason, a financial bust like the internet bubble bursting is, makes it really hard to raise money. But, we already had the money we needed. So we just needed to continue to progress. One of the reasons we have been able to extend into new business areas, and first new product categories, going way back, we just sold books, and then we started selling music and DVDs and electronics and toys and so on. And then we've extended into electronic reading with Kindle. The reason customers have been receptive, in large part, to our new initiatives is because we have worked hard to earn trust with them. Earning trust with customers is a valuable business asset. And if you mistreat their data, they will know. They will figure it out. Customers are very smart. You should never underestimate customers. The heart of entrepreneurship in some ways is about risk-taking, but I think that people many people misperceive what good entrepreneurs do. Good entrepreneurs don't like risk. They seek to reduce risk. So they are, you kind of, starting a company is already risky, and then you systematically eliminate risk step by step in those early days until you can get a company. You need a lot of, believe me, you need a lot of luck in all endeavors in life. And certainly Amazon has had, planetary alignment of the highest order. We're, lots of luck in our history. But you also need to systematically try to identify risks. And then as the company gets bigger and more robust, you can start taking risks again. But in those early days, a lot of it is about, okay, we have a good idea. How do we reduce risk? It's hard to have conviction about whether something will work. And the only thing that I can offer, every once in a while, you get a crisp moment of clarity where you just know some things are going to work. If you are persistent enough. And I think you can only do that if you start with the customer and work backwards. I don't think you can build that kind of clarity on what your competitors are doing or what kinds of technologies are available in the marketplace. That kind of clarity can only come from a deep understanding of customer needs. And the good thing about customer needs is they change slowly in time, so you can count on them. I know for a fact that 10 years from now, Amazon's customers will still want low prices. I know for a fact that Amazon's customers 10 years from now will still want fast delivery. They'll still want vast selection. And there's no chance that 10 years from now, somebody will come to me and say, Jeff, I love Amazon, I just wish you delivered a little more slowly. So because those customer needs are so foundational, sometimes around those things you can get real clarity. And then you can invest, and you can know that your investments will pay dividends for customers over time. I like time. I'm not efficient with my time because efficiency, there's an embedded assumption when you're being efficient. And the embedded assumption is that you know where you're going. And I like to wander, because it's wandering that allows you to invent and to explore and to follow your curiosity. But wandering is very time consuming. And so if I could have one more thing, it would just be more time. Whenever you empower people with new tools, you get unexpected and beautiful results. And we're seeing that. I think we're still in the early innings of seeing the kinds of change that AWS can bring to a whole group of entrepreneurs, including entrepreneurs inside companies. Once you are looking at the odds in a realistic way, it's very important for entrepreneurs to be realistic. And so if you believe on that first day while you're writing the business plan that there's a 70% chance that the whole thing will fail, and then that kind of relieves the pressure of self-doubt. I mean, it's sort of like, I don't have any doubt about whether we're going to fail. That's the likely outcome. And it just is. And to pretend that it's not will lead you to do strange and unnatural things. So and what you do with those early investment dollars, so if you have $300,000 and then you have $1 million, what you do with those early precious capital resources is you go about systematically trying to eliminate risk. So you pick whatever you think the biggest problems are, and you try to eliminate them one at a time. And that's how small companies get a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, and a little bit bigger, until finally, at a certain stage, you reach a transition where where the company has more control over its future destiny. When a company is very tiny, it needs a tremendous amount of not only hard work, but as we talked about earlier, luck. As a company gets bigger, it starts to become a little more stable, where if at a certain point in time, the company has a much bigger influence over its future outcome. It needs a lot less luck, and instead it needs the hard work. And at that point, there's a little bit more pressure, because then if you fail, you have nobody to blame but yourself.
If you want another amazing Jeff Bezos video, check it out right there next to us. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and we'll see you there.
One of the unusual things that we do in the Kindle device business is we sell our hardware near break even. And so we make money when people use the device, not when they buy the device.